To win in space, you'll have to explore, exploit, expand, and exterminate your opponents. That's always been the case in Sins of a Solar Empire 2, the 4X real-time strategy game that, for me, was the best space RTS game last year. I know, it was a Steam release, but no one counts an Epic Game release, right? But with a new upcoming DLC which releases on March 27th, this is about to change. Paths to Power is going to add new ways to play Sins of a Solar Empire 2, new victory conditions, different starting conditions, and more. No, it's not quite a single player campaign. There will be over 10 scenarios added. I know, it's scenarios, not single player campaign. A DLC that just adds scenarios. Yes, it is, but Ironclad Games, the developers, are promising something fresh, something you've never had in a vanilla game of Sins of a Solar Empire 2. The game's executive producer Brian Clare and producer Chad Ferris recently talked to Game Rant about this DLC. They talked briefly about how the development of scenarios for this DLC led to them adding in new or rather returning features to Sins 2, in particular the population and conversion mechanic. So population will now directly affect culture, which you can then use to culture bomb nearby planets to convert them to your glorious empire. I figured this is going to 10x the power of cultural conversions for the Advent faction. Maybe we will see some people exploit this. The conversion scenario uses this mechanic with the win condition of converting the entire population of the system to your Advent faction, assimilate everyone to win. By the way, just to be clear, this new population mechanic will be added with a free accompanying update 1.4 to the game that will be free for everyone. So update 1.4 will also include some new units and improved game balance. So don't worry if you decide not to get this DLC. Which also makes me question what's the value proposition of this DLC. More on that later. So All as One is another scenario that hints at the origin story of the Vasari. Planets at the edge of the system are being decimated by a mysterious force, and playing as the Vasari, you need to ally with your enemies and escape this system in trouble. Will this scenario reveal the mysterious alien faction? I mean, I doubt so, but it would be interesting to see how they handle this and give us more lore on the Vasari faction. Defend the Homeworld is a survival scenario. It's pretty straightforward. You just defend against waves of enemy. You will lose, but it's a matter of time, and how long you last is the real question. I can't believe they didn't actually add this in the base game really. Titans are the biggest new ships they've added in Sins of a Solar Empire 2, and some fans have asked for more titanic battles, and Ironclad obliged. In the Clash of the Titans, which is obviously not related to the movie, in this scenario you only have a Titan as your mothership. This scenario surely has to be inspired by Homeworld, so multiple factions will only have a Titan in which you and your opponents can call in reinforcements. You have no Homeworld and need to destroy the Homeworld of the Auxilian Resurgence, which is the bad guy in this scenario. A very cool scenario if you don't like building up your planet and economy and just want to blow things up. And in Scorched Space, there are these ancient dormant star bases which you can either repair them to unleash some sort of world-ending disaster, I'm assuming here, or to destroy it to avoid it falling into the wrong hands. It is interesting to see that these scenarios somewhat have a story behind them, expanding on the lore of Sins of a Solar Empire, so I'm really interested to see if they'll put the effort into telling this story. Maybe with some in-game cutscenes? Maybe? I really hope they do that. So the question we all have is this a good idea for a DLC? A scenario pack essentially, right? Will this be worth it? Sure, Paths to Power is no real single player campaign, and disappointingly it's single player only. Would have been really fun to play some of these scenarios in co-op. I think it's to tide us over while we wait for that DLC that promises to bring the first ever single player campaign to the Sins of a Solar Empire franchise. I guess it makes sense since the game released on Steam August last year. You've probably played a ton of the game and would want new ways to play and win the game. Scenarios that flip the formula a little, but then is this like an official mod pack? Because like if modders can make these scenarios, which you can actually find user-made scenarios in the modding section of the game, but most of these modded scenarios might not have the same emphasis on story or interesting starting conditions and win conditions. So I guess it does make sense. Paths to Power for me is more like a preview of what a proper single player campaign for Sins 2 could be. It is priced at only $12.99 US, so I don't think it's that expensive, taking into account the content that's coming with it. I mean, ultimately, we can only tell if it's worth it when it's released and when we've got our hands on it. But you tell me in the comments, do you think that this is a fair price to ask for what's on offer here? I do wonder how many people play single player versus multiplayer or co-op. There's a decent number of players for Sins of a Solar Empire 2 on Steam, but we're not exactly sure how many are actually playing multiplayer. Yeah, maybe this DLC might get those people that have dropped off to play the game again. Do also tell me in the comments if you play Sins of a Solar Empire 2. Do you play primarily in single player or multiplayer? And I guess I could speculate that the Times of War DLC, which is targeted for a fall 2025 release, might be a linear string of single player scenarios with a proper story and cinematics. Now that to me is why I purchased the premium edition of Sins of Solar Empire 2. I do hope that Times of War actually they make it much more interesting than making it too linear, but that's just what I hope. But I think it would be a linear campaign. But I am still very eagerly waiting for that. Anyway, if you've been thinking about getting Sins of Solar Empire 2, well, you can bet your bottom dollar that the game will be getting a discount when this DLC releases on May 27, but you haven't heard that from me. I mean, most probably, right? I recently checked out Heart of the Machine, a rather intriguing turn-based strategy game about an AI uprising. It's a strategy game where you can shape the future of the game world. It's in early access and you can watch that video over here. Thanks for watching and farewell, noble friends.